This is my editor Harrison with maximum enchanted netherite gear. He's just eaten an enchanted golden apple, but he's dead in one hit anyway. The strongest weapon Minecraft had before this update was a sharpness 5 netherite sword, and it was capable of killing the ender dragon in 43 hits, but the mace can do it in just one. Naturally, this raises the question of, is the mace overpowered? And today I intend to answer that by testing the damage, seeing how it scales, and also seeing if there are any broken combinations of items, because all of these mobility items might scale a bit too well with full damage to the point where they create a broken combination. So let's find out if Minecraft's first weapon since 2019 is OP today, and let's start with its damage. How much damage does the mace do in combat is a question akin to asking how long is a piece of string. Unlike the trident, which does the same amount of damage whether you use it to throw in combat or whether you use it as a melee weapon, and unlike the netherite sword, which has variables, is it enchanted or not, this can lead it to dealing either 8 damage or 15.25, just depending on the enchantments you have. The question of how much damage a mace does is, I guess, somewhere between 7 and infinite, depending on how far you've fallen, because every melee weapon in Minecraft has the critical hit mechanic where you deal more damage when you're in midair. You'll notice these sparkles around the world. I'm not going to try and hit a bat to show you these, but you'll notice these sparkles around the world when you get one of these, and this is a 50% flat bonus for every weapon. It even applies to your fist. However, when it comes to the mace, this is a minimum of a 100% bonus because of the interesting mechanic around how this damage scales. And I guess another interesting mechanic is how you get these in the first place. Everyone knows this infamous crafting recipe. It's very understated for the most powerful weapon Minecraft has, and so it's interesting to mention that that obviously uses the big heavy new item, the heavy core, but how do you get your hands on one of these? And the answer is another odds-based question. You need, so according to King Big Dogs in this tweet right here, there is roughly a 2.2% chance of getting one of these when you use a trial key to open a vault. There are around 10 to 20 of these per trial chamber on average, which means that your odds, I had 45 keys right there, and I got myself precisely 0, are around getting one every 2 to 3 trial chambers, but you could get luckier or unluckier. Also, look how many of these armor trims I got. Isn't that incredible? So this is the interesting thing. Getting this new weapon is not like many other weapons, like where you just have to craft it. It is very much an RNG dependent one that will require a lot of slaying other mobs. In other words, you have to prove your combat prowess before you can get one of these guys. A lot of boring math later. Yeah! In case you are curious, I got one just now on my 135th vault. In that time, I got myself 9 enchanted apples, several stacks of emeralds, 4 stacks of wind charges, and just as a point of proof, that is a ridiculously bad luck, but if it's 2.2%, but this is a real thing you have to expect in Minecraft, and even worse than just being something which requires going through, in my case, somewhere between, like 8 and 10 trial chambers, and clearing them all out in their entirety. You can only ever open a vault once per player, and so I have now gotten 1 heavy core that can be used in my world. And now I have a very hard choice to make. Do I use my 1 heavy core for its, maybe you could say intended purpose of putting it on top of a breeze rod, or do I use it as a decorative item in my world? Once it's been crafted into a mace, it can never be recrafted, and honestly, because it is so expensive, you should never let this weapon die. It has a shorter durability than a netherite sword, and that is something crucial about how you get it that you might forget about as we go into the rest of this video. So keep in mind, it is a very rare chance. You might spend literally dozens of hours, that's how long it would have taken me in survival, to get a weapon that is worse than your existing one in basic combat. So why would anyone use this? Well, that's a good question. And it is one that is answered by the scaling formula of this weapon. So, like I mentioned earlier, the mace can do 7 damage at its lowest, but it can also do anywhere up to an infinity, and the answer as to how it determines which of these it does is entirely based on how many blocks you've fallen. So, a normal critical hit does 50% extra damage, but in the case of this weapon, 50% plus my mace would be 10.5 damage, whereas a skeleton has 20 health. What do you think happens if I jump at it from here? Well, the answer is he's gone. He was very long gone. In fact, he was very overkilled. If I want, I can continuously use this ladder, and I can ensure myself that I will get over and over again. Oh, wow, the skeletons have done it to each other, actually. But by using this same ladder over and over again, I can ensure that every single one of my hits will be a one-hit KO. In fact, I can do this from a much shorter height if I really want to. I can land on this pot and jump from there, and if I wait till I get close to the ground, you can see from that noise that I'm getting these mega critical hits as well. This is a sign sign that you have got the massive mace bonus attack damage, if you hear this noise, then you have officially gotten yourself a lovely scaling bonus. And this scaling bonus has no upper bounds that has practically been found. So what is the formula for it? This is something that's taken a lot of testing to find out, but the simple answer seems to be, the basic answer is that for the damage for the weapon of the mace is 7 by default with non-criticals, and then when you get a critical, it is always 10.5. But if you get a mace damage critical, then you are going to get points for every block that you've fallen until that point. And this damage is around 3.5 damage per blocks based on our testing, but then it will also increase by 50% because of the critical damage, and that sounds like a lot of maths because it is, but long story short, if you fall 2 full blocks, then you have gone an extra 10.5 damage in addition to the 10.5 damage of your mace, which means you can one-hit KO a person. That sounds insane, jumping 2 blocks and being able to one-hit KO a full person, but allow me to show you something fun right now. So I'm going to summon a villager into these webs somewhere that he won't run away from, and a villager has the exact same health as a player character at 20. By the way, just as a fun fact right here, did you know the mace technically counts as a sword, which, by the way, the best tool for destroying webs, which means you can destroy webs faster with the mace. I bet you didn't know that. But much more interesting is the fact that if I just get 2 blocks above this villager, and then I jump at him, so the 2 blocks from the stairs, or 1 block from the stairs, and then another one, that means that he will die in 1 hit. You saw him just be summoned in, he had that fresh 20 health, and yet he died in a 1-hit KO from the mace. I don't think there is a weapon besides the TNT or a extremely buff bow with some poison arrows that can kill someone in a single hit. That makes it incredibly powerful for PvP. I do think that is where some of the most intense applications will be, but I think it's the PvE that gets interesting, because now let's talk about practical implications. So in the same way that I just said you could kill a human in a single hit if you have just a single block, this is also true for any of the basic mobs you'll find in Minecraft. If a creeper is chasing you, all you're going to need is a single block of height and then a nice slam attack, and all of a sudden he is going to be history. The same is true for skeletons, although, you know, they're a little bit more annoying, so good luck with that one. And also, interestingly, despite their slight armor, it is also true for zombies. It seems as though the mace at least partially ignores armor from the testing we've done so far, but every single basic mob can be killed with a single block and a single good jump, which makes it a very high skill weapon even before you get to the risky part of those jumps, because if you have a slightly stronger enemy, let's say it has more than 20 health, then one of these single hits just isn't going to do it. In fact, I would go a step further and say making an Enderman mad is probably not exactly what you need to do at this early point in the game. It will make a very good dent into their damage, but the goal is 1-hit KOs, right? And so you can use this scaling formula from earlier. The way I would very loosely equate it is to ignore all of that complicated maths and just say that for every 5 health points that a mob has, you need an extra block. And so the witch has 25 health, and so instead of 2 blocks worth of falling damage plus your base mace, instead you need 3 blocks. This means placing 2 blocks down if you're on a level surface, which is probably going to be hard to do, but we're going to try our very best right now. Come at me, witch. Let's do this. Oh no, I messed that up. Okay, this should do instead. We're going to jump from the hill and boom, 1-hit KO even on the witch, which means that if we take the Enderman example from earlier, they have 40 health points, and so 10 base plus 10 for the first 2, and then that means we're going to need another 4 blocks on top of that, which means that as well as having a 5-block tower, we need to jump, or we can fall from a 6-block tower, and an Enderman should be toast. Let's test that. Okay, this feels like it's not gonna work, but whoa, it actually does. As you can see, you can in fact kill any mob using this basic formula, and like you probably just saw, it scales all the way up to the Ender Dragon, because despite her ludicrous health bar, it still is a health bar nonetheless, and so, okay, not 1-hit KO there, but you can see just how much damage we did to her. Even with her healing, it is not going to be enough. If you have a well-timed Elytra boost and a mace, then there is nothing that can stop you. And so let's just casually wait up here. Imagine we've got a lovely platform built where the dragon won't attack us. And then as soon as she tries, oh, she's actually coming almost all the way up here. And then as soon as she tries to get back into the center, we're going to time a jump just perfectly to go right for her. If you don't hit it, then you won't survive the fall. But if you do, the dragon can be dead in 2 hits, if not 1. Absolutely wild. So this is the point where people start to say, like, okay, something is busted, right? You shouldn't be able to use a weapon that has 7 damage to one-hit KO the Ender Dragon. And I understand where you'd be coming from if you said that. However, it's not as broken as you might think, and to explain why, I'm going to have to do a little bit of myth busting, because there are 2 very big myths about this item and how it would work, which I think will seriously affect your opinion of just how good it actually is. So first of them is actually that it doesn't take into account how far you've fallen, it instead uses a little bit of that full distance with some full velocity, and so what that means is that if you use a slow falling potion, you might think you can avoid all of the downside and get all of the upside, but let me prove to you that's not true. And so here I am in the sky, and I'm going to get the perfect hit on this ocelot on the way down. As you can see though, I didn't even get a critical hit, let alone a magical mace special attack, and that's because slow falling negates the effect of any of this. I think this is very interesting by itself, that you can't get critical hits of slow falling, but otherwise it would be very good for PvP, I guess, and so that is one of the myths. But the second of these is that the Elytra is what makes this OP. I can understand where you come from with this. Like, yeah, when you're flying, you're sort of falling the entire time. Like right now, I am falling, oh, I've got the slow falling on still. Right now, I am falling from quite the height, and I have a decent amount of full velocity, but the game does not care about this, as I'll show you with another quick one of these. The game does not care about the amount that I might have fallen with my velocity, and instead, I got that lovely one-hit KO from a critical, but that was because he was weakened, not because of my Elytra. Okay, this has also been a tricky one to land, but look, I'm swooping him from so high, and even though I hit him from that air, I still did not get a critical. You actually can do this with the Elytra sometimes, it is kind of variable, but you're never going to get the same damage you would as if you were falling naturally and had an easy way to avoid that. And so, I think these 2 factors, combined with ultimately the rarity of this thing, it is not one that you're going to want to use casually, even though it can one-hit KO basically every mob. You're only going to want to use it for special occasions because of the fact that it comes from vaults, and vaults are both rare and can only be opened once. I think many players will be looking at this and saying, yeah, once you get a single mace, you need to protect that thing like crazy. So the Elytra attack is not only hard to pull off, as proven by my attempts, but also it doesn't always result in getting that full damage. Sometimes you do get it, but it's not for the full damage you've flown, instead it's based on some weird velocity calculator, but as you can see right there, relying on this is not going to work in PvP combat, and even if it does, it's never going to be as effective as taking the risk of flying right into the air and then letting go and hoping you hit something on the way down. The Elytra might help you escape full damage, but you can't use it in lieu of full damage because it's not really falling when you use the Elytra. This is a good thing that they thought about, whether intentionally or not, and as much as I would love to do some Elytra slam dunking onto Endermen like this, the truth is it just does not work how you want it to, and so with that said, the last thing that really balances out the mace is not a myth that needs to be busted, but is sort of to do with the fact that this is not an ordinary weapon. Getting a sword is something you can do very easily in Minecraft. Even a diamond sword you can have within 10 minutes of a brand new world. A trident you can have even sooner, but the mace has such a rarity to it. It didn't even really sink in until I went through 100 vaults. Even in creative mode, it took me a really long time. Finding a mace naturally takes a lot of survival work, and that means that it's going to be very, very, very much not the go-to weapon for everyone, but instead the coveted high-risk, high-reward weapon for people to work into their survival strategies. There will be some insane things that come out of it, but that doesn't make it inherently overpowered. It just makes it the new top rare item, but even then, not a full-time replacement for the Netherite sword. There are many good times to use that instead. No, okay. There are many good times to use that instead, and the biggest reason is that you don't have to risk your life every time you want to get a mega hit, which in my opinion is a pretty big one. However, that brings us nicely into the question, you know, as I mentioned with the power of the firework rockets, this is going to bring us nicely into the question of what items work really well with it. We have never had an item which comes with as many synergy points as the mace does in Minecraft before. It is absolutely wild the things that you can do with this item if you only combine it with the right other choices, and these are the things that I think really bring it the closest to overpowered, because if you take the feather falling boots for example, these allow you to mitigate quite a bit of the risk that would would otherwise come with, having to work your way up somewhere high, because if you have feather falling boots on, especially if they're made from a high tier gear, then the big risk of will you prevent the full damage by hitting the thing or not is gone away. Right now, I should be taking a solid 2 and a bit parts of full damage, but with the Netherite boots with full damage reduction, it is just a single half heart. This means that I can now take a lot bigger risks and not really worry about the results as much, and so I can kill horses from silly distances. Do they have ridiculous health points or something? It is crazy the damage that guy has just withstood, but yeah, the fact that I can do that is only possible thanks to feather falling, one of the best enchantments in Minecraft as it is, but definitely getting a lot better with this update. Similarly, I think Riptide is very smart. I think we could argue the bucket as a whole is really, really smart, because any time that you want to prevent full damage, all you need to do is make sure you have water there, and as long as you hit something... Oh, I broke Minecraft by... Oh, yeah, that crashed Minecraft. That's a new one. As if you needed any more proof the Riptide Trident was broken, it literally sent my world back in time. Do you remember the water I had over here? It's gone missing. Look at my experience and everything else. It's very, very, very confusing. But yeah, Riptide is a great bet to ensure that you can benefit from the upside of the mace without ever having to risk the downside. You can do this by making your own water source, of course, this is entirely valid. However, I would... Wow, I survived that. That is actually wild. But I would say that the biggest benefit is that you could therefore use the mace in water, getting insane airtime. This is my vague plan to kill the Wither the Mace. I'm planning out a playthrough of Minecraft, trying to kill everything in one hit right now, and that would be a very easy way to make sure that you get a real good boost for maybe killing the Wither, or at least in a survival world where you need to do repeated hits. It's a clever way to get lots and lots of damage against a water-based mob. Next up, we've got to talk about the Elytra. Obviously, this is powerful because it's like the Riptide Trident, but you can do it anywhere. Once you have an Elytra on and some firework rockets, you can choose when you're flying into the air, and if you come towards the ground and don't see your target, you just have to fly away from it, and you can mitigate quite a bit of that full damage. And so, indeed, it means you can get to exactly where you need to be, wait for the exact right moment, and then launch yourself into the air, and boom! Oh. Well, I didn't die, but you can decide exactly how big you want your fall to be by deciding how far above a mob you are when you land on top of it, which is absolutely incredible when it works out great. Next up here, let's talk about the wind charge. This is the defining feature for the wind charge, in my opinion. If you put your wind charge close to your mace on your hotbar, or realistically even if you don't, they create a ridiculously powerful combo that, so you've seen me try to kill horses and fail, even with about 5 blocks of distance. They have a serious amount of health against the mace for some reason, so here's something fun that you can do. So here we can see me use, oh wow, even against that, you can see the wind charge is not enough, but even if someone has a full Netherite armor set, you can still take them down with a wind charge, which is insane if you ask me. We actually did some tests, and with a wind charge, you can actually take down someone with full Netherite armor with a single mace hit. Obviously, that means that the wind charge is going to be the terrifying lead up to maybe getting one hit KO'd, and so I think this is going to be one of the more terrifying items in a PvP context. In a slightly less terrifying string of events, I think scaffolding is also going to get a brand new use, because sometimes if you need to get a temporary boost up, this is going to be a great way to do that. All these ways I've tried to show you of killing horses, I haven't been able to get one in one hit yet, but the scaffolding represents a great way for me to be able to look down as I place up to the sky. I can place this very quickly if I want to, and then from here at the top, I can make a nice controlled fall. How is he surviving that? Again, gonna take advantage of the, the ability to really line myself up above my target, and then we're gonna get a mega hit. Okay, I would be shocked if that didn't kill a horse. How much health do they have in Minecraft? I need to search this up. There is no way that they're meant to have over 50 health. So that means that, yeah, they have 30 as a max. So they should be able to die in just 4 blocks. But somehow, a lot more than that did not kill them. So there are lots of inconsistencies that have come up in the testing. Some animals are taking a lot less damage than you would expect, and some things, like players, are taking a lot more. Being able to kill Harrison with only 50 blocks of full damage, for example, shouldn't have been possible when he had a beacon next to him, and an enchanted golden apple, and the Netherite armor, but yet these things have come up regardless, which is ultimately where we have to land. Before we talk about I think we should conclude this, but it is important to say that this is clearly a feature in progress, and the proof of that is probably best shown with the horse. Although, I couldn't end this video without personally being curious, because fun fact, a dog actually can withstand more hits from a mace than the Wither can, for example, because your dog armor will take up one of those hits for free. The same with a Totem Undying. If you're worried about being one-hit KO'd, no matter how much damage hits you, a Totem or Wolf armor will prevent that. But yeah, let's see. Oh. Well, that certainly wasn't going to kill a horse, was it? But this hopefully will. Okay, so a wind charge bolt or a well-placed scaffolding tower is enough to take down a horse, but I don't think you really need to do that very often, to be totally honest with you. And now is a good time to shift away from the fun testing that I've been doing today and into the conclusion. So here is the part of the video where we finally conclude, is the mace overpowered? Well, here's the thing. We've had the mace for just over 24 hours in a development build of Minecraft, 2 different development builds actually, and already there are lots of big questions about this, but also I think it is worth giving Mojang some time to cook. You know, let them cook, as we love to say these days. And one of the reasons why is because the mace cannot be enchanted yet. This is confirmed to be a bug on Java, while on Bedrock you can enchant it with mending and the curse of vanishing, but not unbreaking. So maybe they've got something planned here, or maybe honestly they're still working on this. I think the way this weapon enchants is going to be the major shift. If this was unenchantable as it is, I think it would probably be about fine for survival, a bit powerful for certain PvP servers where people effectively have everything, and perfectly balanced for mini games because you could just not give it to people, or you can only give it to people but, you know, nerf the other items you give with it. I think that it's really, really well balanced in its current form, a slight touch powerful. However, the question is, what are they going to do with enchantments more than anything else? Everything that we say here is kind of going to be impacted by how intense PvP players can use this, because right now I feel like when someone's trying to hit you with a mace, it's fairly easy to avoid. If you can work out a way to remove that from the equation and remove the damage, then it'll be far too powerful. And also one of the other key questions is, how is this going to be enchantable? Every other unique combat weapon, the Trident, has Riptide and Loyalty, which really specs it in 2 different directions. The crossbow has multi-shot, which takes away the accuracy, and piercing, which really encourages specific accuracy. Every other weapon really has different enchantments to make it go in different directions. What are they going to do with the mace? Are they going to say not enchantable, it's too powerful as it is? I think that if it was that way, it would be just fine, but if they are going to add enchantments, they might need to nerf the base weapon to account for it. In the same way that a Netherite sword with sharpness 5 is fairly balanced, but if it was a Netherite sword the entire time that had the equivalent of sharpness 5, that would feel nuttily overpowered. I think that there are some real questions about how they add this, and personally, just for the pure fun of speculation, I would like to see the mace be a really unique weapon where maybe, this full damage is one of the paths you can take it down, or maybe instead you could use the mace for something like leeching. So every time you hit someone with the mace, you get a little bit of health back, but it does less damage in exchange. I think you could have lots of unique combat abilities be tied to this thing, or you could go the most fun and stereotypical way and just say, nah, no unique enchantments, but you can get channeling on it, which would be pretty crazy cool. I mean, a lightning axe, who doesn't love the idea? Or a lightning mace, I guess we should say. But yeah, the mace is the weird niche weapon in a lot of video games, and I would love to see if that's where Minecraft is taking this. The damage formula probably could do with tiny adjustments, but no matter how you adjust it, if you half the damage or third the damage, there is still an amount of full damage you can do to kill any player in one hit. There is an amount of full damage you can do to kill the dragon in one hit, and so if you're thinking that it is too powerful in its current form, just think that you're probably thinking about its most insane OP version, and the very low down version is actually fairly reasonable, and that is the one we should be talking about. Anything over 20 blocks is a meme and shouldn't be taken seriously, in the same way you can't say TNT is OP because you could make 700 blocks of it and explode an entire world and have your TNT launch other TNT. It does happen, it is a thing worth caring about, but the way that Minecraft tries to balance the game is for the 99.9% and not for the 0.1%, and so that is why I would say the mace is not overpowered, except for the fact that in certain extreme PvP situations it's going to feel that way, but that is how a good late game item should feel. Something that I have been thinking about the entire time I've been making this video is the fact that the heavy core is basically the Ender Dragon egg for the Trial Chambers. It is rare, it is hard to get, and honestly you could use it decoratively as a flex, because yeah, you could have a mace but instead you've got this incredible item, and so yeah, that's an interesting equivalence, I would say. And so if the Ender Dragon egg could be used to make a sword that was slightly better than Netherite, would you say that's OP because it's over the top? I don't think so, especially if you needed to use a rare item to craft it in the first place. It was hard to repair, and it didn't have the normal enchantment path, and that's where I think the mace is right now. But I imagine we'll have to stay tuned for the rest of this update. I am very excited to see it, and for now, I hope that you've been excited to see this video, because I'll see you tomorrow. And yeah, we're going to be talking about the trial chambers and the new rooms for Seed Sunday this week. It's going to be a lot of fun, but see you for tomorrow's video, Q&A Saturday, and for the Seed, where we dive into the trial chamber changes, because as part of the balancing for this, obviously, they've changed the way that trial chambers work, and I think it's absolutely fascinating. So let's go give them a look soon. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the live stream tomorrow, today, whatever. I'm doing a lot of stuff with the mace. I'm very excited about Minecraft right now. I don't know if you can tell. So yeah, if you're excited too, subscribe, because I'll see you next time. Bye.